Here we are, broadcasting live. Does everybody see me? Welcome back. Yes, I am Chris Biffle. We're about to start our show. Hope the audio and video looks good. And let's roll. Teaching Challenging Kids 101. Day one, that's what we're talking about. The date today is July 31st. Let's check it out. This is wholebrainteaching.com, used in 30 foreign countries, 70,000 members, 2 million views on YouTube, 10 million pages downloaded, and here is BuzzBeBuzzer, one of the world's most popular education websites. Thank you, BuzzBeBuzzer. You're very welcome, Coach. Here's an important point to make, BuzzBeBuzzer. If you can't view a webcast live, poor you. But you can view any webcast 24/7 in the video library on the homepage of wholebrainteaching.com. Let's take a look at that video library, my friends. You see the library right here? I get lots of emails saying, I missed the show. Well, if you missed the show, my friends, here they all are right here. There's a little bar underneath there and a little black arrow right here. So if you missed the show, you can see it again. Let's talk about, if you want slides or professional development credit. Biffy Bluebird has you covered, and his brother Bobby Bluebird says it's easy to get slides or professional development credit. We include everything at the end of the program. A couple more announcements before we jump in. Whole Brain Teaching Certification. You too can become a certified WBT instructor. Here are the levels. You can advance from WBT novice up to a board certified instructor at level 5. My friends, you could climb all the way up to international presenter. Out there in webcast land, how high do you want to fly? How certified do you want to get? How do you achieve certification? Well, we have a certification program. It's online 24/7. I'll show it to you right now. Check it out. Click on this little red thing right here to find out how you can get certified. One of the certification methods is to write about these webcasts. Here's tonight's question. Certification question. Let's get this screen adjusted here. What are the strengths and weaknesses of our webcast day one? Write a good answer, you get 50 certification points. 75 or more certification points are possible for outstanding answers. Where do you put your answer to a webcast certification task? Why, look, it's right here. WBT certification, webcast day one. All right, now we are ready to jump in to our program. Here's JJ Jive. WBT sounds great, but how do I start? That's what he asked last week. Quick summary of last week, which was the first hour. This is what your whiteboard looks like. Tonight I will be showing you how to do day one for K1, 2nd through 5th, and secondary. I'm going to be juggling 3 balls tonight. But this is your basic whiteboard. And notice that you'll have a lot of Rule 1 practice. What is Rule 1? Look at this fancy thing. Rule 1, check this out. Rule 1 is follow directions quickly. Give kids lots of practice in following directions quickly with the three-peat. So you say, pencils out. They say, pencils out, out, out. When they get their pencils out, woo. You say, stand up. They say, stand up, up, up. When they're all standing up, woo. Lots of practice in following directions quickly. That's huge in the first hour. Let's look at another slide. Hour 1, you do class yes, Rule 1 practice, the scoreboard, and student names. We showed you a trick for learning all the student names, even if you have 150 like I used to in college. And by the end of the first hour, your students will have covered the above and will spend the most time on Rule 1 practice. Here is one of our favorite guests, your dear colleague, Nervous Nita. Oh no, then what? Nervous Nita, we're going to help you. I hope so, Coach. What happens after the first hour? Nita, you've come to the right place. I'm going to tell you what happens after the first hour. Oh, Coach, that sounds great. You're going to do the core 4. We have 4 basic techniques that we use in whole brain teaching called the core 4. Class yes, and notice I have a little note here, hands folded. When you say class and they say yes, boom, we want those hands folded in the listening position. The scoreboard, where you're marking smileys or frownies or teacher versus student. Mirror, where the kids are mirroring your gestures and the teach okay. Though that's the core 4. You can hit all 4 of those in the first day, except in kindergarten or first grade. We'll show you the tweak. With these 4 techniques, you can teach anything. Yes, anything. By the end of the first hour, your students will have already learned class yes and the scoreboard. I'll tell you about how to tweak the teach okay for kindergarten and first grade. Notice that after the first hour, your kids will have learned class yes with the hands folded and scoreboard. So, what's next? What's next is mirror. Here's how you introduce mirror. Here's Biffy Bluebird. The teacher says, class. The students say yes. The teacher says, when I say mirror and make my gestures, you do the same thing. And they'll say, you say mirror? They say mirror. You say, all right, that is very good. I like to see you're all moving with me. Mirror takes you maybe 30 seconds. They will have a tendency to say your words. You say, no, mirrors don't talk. In fact, we've been doing this. That's our mirror gesture. Later on, there's other tweaks for the mirror. But once you get them mirroring, you look around the room, you'll see incredible student engagement. Smiling student engagement. Let's press on. If you have questions, pay attention to the folks whose names are in red. Why is mirror important? Mirror locks students' visual and motor cortices into the teacher's lessons, and it's fun. Yes, my friends, when you use mirror, you're really getting the whole brain going. They see you, they hear you, and they're making their gestures. Practice in the mirror. You can teach anything. Practice in the mirror, mirror. Now, my first point is, and my second point is, and my third point is, when I say Rule 1, I want you to do that. Practice illustrating what you talk about with gestures. It doesn't even matter, if it's not so polished. Just use that mirror. Now, let's go back to our friend, JJ Jive. All right, I've taught mirror, then what? Here's what, JJ Jive. Check it out, my friends. You add mirror to the morning's lesson, and then you use mirror to review what you've taught your kids. Can everybody dig that? You teach mirror, and then you use mirror to teach what you've already taught. We're talking lots of spiral review here. You teach a new thing, and then you use that to reteach what you taught. Now, Nervous Nita says, how would I use mirror to do that? And we've got an answer for you, Nervous. The teacher says, when I say mirror, you say mirror, and you lift your hands like this, mirror, and the kids say mirror. Then you hold up one finger, and the students hold up one finger. And you say, don't say my words, just mirror my gestures. The first thing I taught you was, class, yes. And they're all going, mm-hmm. Don't want to say your words, just say, mirrors don't talk. We have mirror words for later on. Let's just get them used to the silent mirror. And then you say, then I taught you follow directions quickly. And you make that gesture. So you use mirror to reteach everything you've taught. Do you see the beauty of that? Let me know, my online friends. Yes. Amen. Now, check it out. But what about all the school business that has to be taken care of on the first day? What about that school business? I'll tell you. With Class Yes and the scoreboard and mirror, you've got 3 powerful teaching tools and Rule 1. Use those 4 to do all of the school business. You see what I'm saying? What you're doing is you're establishing a fast-paced, follow directions quickly environment. You've got the class yes, you've got the scoreboard, you've got the mirror. You know a lot of their names, so now you can get into some of the student business. I see my friends online are following me along very, very carefully. Let's look at this screen. After several hours, you'll have given your students plenty of practice with each of the starred items above. See, the non-starred items are where you're reviewing Rule 1. And pay attention. Note that each of the starred items, except for student names, is extremely easy to learn. It unites your class with your leadership. It makes learning fun and establishes a year-long pattern for the kind of energy and engagement you want. At this point, depending on how much school business we have, you're in 2 to 3 hours. You'll know your pacing. Just keep working on these fundamental techniques. We've taught 3 of the core 4 and Rule 1. Keep it fun. Weave the golden thread of fun, the fast golden thread of fun, through everything you do. Here's our friend, and she asked the obvious question, where do lunch and recess fit in? I'll tell you, wherever you want. Now this is an important point, my friends. I'm now going to talk about how to teach the Teach OK. This is for 2nd 12th. I'll show you what to do with a variation of the Teach OK for K1. Let's stop for a second. We've got the core 4, class yes, scoreboard mirror, Then you do the teach okay. And we've got rule 1. That's all we're doing here on this first day. And we're using these things to review what we've already taught the kids. Now the teach okay technique I'm going to show you has been highly polished over more than a decade. It's very detailed, easy, and it's really the best version we've had. You say class, they say yes. Let's get that 3D mix in there. You say class, they say yes. You say, when I clap twice, you clap twice. And they clap twice. You say, when I clap twice and say teach, you clap twice and say okay. I'll say that again. When I clap twice and say teach, you clap twice and say okay. Teach. Okay. Just that little piece. Use the scoreboard. You want it to go slow because you want it to go smooth. This is where you might need a copy of these slides. Let's look at the next little piece. Here's the full screen view. You say class, they say yes. You say, I'm going to clap twice and say teach. You clap twice and say okay. And immediately turn your whole body to your neighbor. So you clap twice and say teach. They clap twice and say okay. And turn to their neighbor. This is an important point. You must establish from the get-go that when they say okay, the very next thing they do is turn to their neighbor. If you teach that right away, just turn to your neighbor, because otherwise you will be months repeating, please turn to your neighbor, please turn to your neighbor. Teach it in a little piece and get them turned to their neighbor. And now one more small little step. You then say, I want you, when you turn to your neighbor, to use big gestures and teach rule 1 over and over again. So you clap twice and say teach. They clap twice and say okay. They're doing the full turn, and they're teaching their neighbors. Let's review that one more time. Take a look at this last piece. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to teach them to clap twice. You're going to teach them to clap twice. You clap twice, they clap twice. You clap twice and say teach, they clap twice and say okay. You clap twice and say teach, and they say okay, and then they're turning to their neighbors, and then they start teaching. Slow, smooth, but don't hold any other options open. When you're teaching, you're looking at your neighbors. You're fully involved in instruction and using big gestures. But what about K1? It is a problem to do teach okay in K1. We know that. We've got a lot of kindergarten teachers out there. You may be able to do it in first grade. Here's what will happen in kindergarten. You can get them to clap twice and they'll clap twice. But then when you go teach, they'll go teach. You with me? They will say what you said. So you have to have a little bit of a tweak there. Let's look at this for K1. Here's the screen. You say class, they say yes. You've taught them that. When I clap twice, you clap twice. They can do that. Then you say, tell your neighbor this is fun. They say this is fun. When I clap twice, you clap twice. You clap twice. Tell your neighbor, let's be fast. Many say to their neighbor, let's be fast. You see what that is? Let's look at it again. You've taught them, when I say class, you say yes. They get that. Then you say, when I clap twice, you clap twice. They'll clap twice. You say, now, when I clap twice, you clap twice. They clap twice. You say, tell your neighbor, this is fun. And if you make this turn like this, many of them will mirror you and they'll say, this is fun. Then you say, class, tell your neighbor, let's be fast. Let's be fast. So instead of doing the teach okay, you tell the kids what you want them to say to their neighbor. That's how you started in K1. Let's look at one more little step. Now, Some of them will have a problem turning to your neighbor. So you say, class. They say, yes. When I clap twice, you clap twice. You clap twice. Then you say, turn to your neighbor, turn, and say, this is fun. Do it again. Turn to your neighbor, turn, and say, let's be fast. So when you say turn to your neighbor, emphasize you want them to turn. Then you've got them paying attention to you, talking to the neighbor, coming back to you. Getting instruction from you, talking to the neighbor, and coming back to you. Now, if you're a first grade teacher and you believe that you don't need to go in these small steps, fine. If you're a kindergarten or first grade teacher and this makes sense to you, once you got them doing that, and it can take several days, then you go to the sequence I just described for 2nd 12th. But what fills up the rest of the day? That's the question. Here's the answer, my friends. Here's Nervous Nita. What fills up the rest of the day? Notice how much stuff you've covered. Well, we say, depending on your grade level or your interests, there's 4 other lessons you could use on day 1. You could teach the 5 rules. You could show how we answer questions. You could start on your state standards for power picks, or you could get started on writing. So here's some day 1 lessons. Let's just look at each one of them. You are, of course, going to use the Class Yes Scoreboard Mirror and Teach OK for any of these day 1 lessons. Conveniently enough, for all of you, we've covered each of these in a webcast. So one day 1 lesson is, what are the 5 rules? You teach the 5 rules with gestures. Look at video 515. Or another day 1 lesson, how do we answer questions? I really think this should be part of day 1. You teach your kids that whenever I ask a question, you answer with a complete sentence. We call that oral writing. Get them to speak sentences, it's easier for them to write sentences. Look at video 502 for that day 1 lesson. Or you might want to get started on Common Core. Take a look at our power picks. Video 529. And I say the first power picks you ought to do at almost any level is, what is a sentence? Or how do we write? The thing about writing is that we want to start them at as simple level as possible. Let them write for 10 minutes and just write neatly. That's all I'm looking for, is writing neatly. I take my green marker, I mark one of your neat words. I take my red marker, I mark one of your words that's not so neat. I go on to the next kid. Look at video 531. Now here's Nervous Nita. What would day 1 look like for K1? Now let's just give a picture of the whole day for each grade level. Here's what I'm saying. There's your morning lesson. You got through mirror. In the afternoon, do tell your neighbor. You might show them how to answer questions or a power picks and go to centers. You decide how much, but of everything there, I think you have to start working on telling your neighbor and answering questions in complete sentences. That would be a fantastic day 1. Now, Nervous Nita wants to know, well, what about 2nd through 5th? What would day 1 look like? Now, 2nd through 5th, you can really roll. There's your morning, and in the afternoon, teach OK. The 5 rules I think you can get through. Oral writing. If you have time, go to a power picks or red-green writing. But keep using the core 4. Oh, but Nervous Nita says, what if I teach secondary, I only have 1 hour? My friends, I taught college. I had 50 minutes. In 50 minutes, you can crank with secondary kids. You teach them the class yes, the scoreboard, mirror, teach okay, the 5 rules, and then you hit them with the course materials. You can go lickety-split and use lots of review. Now what about the fun burst? You're all waiting for the fun burst. My online friends, what do you think the fun burst is? I'm going to stop and take a drink of Colorado Clear here. What's the fun burst? Yes, Heather, Zer. Yay, fun burst. High energy learning. 1 minute of music. Icebreakers. Brain break. Wacky fun button. I love that wacky fun burst. A new drink. A burst of fun. You're right, my friends. Here we go. Let's look at the fun burst. Brand new. Here it is. Day one pattern. Divide normal WBT learning fun with intense fun bursts all day long. So you teach with your normal fun for 15 or 20 minutes. Then you have a 1 minute fun burst. Then you come back to normal fun. Let's look at that. So you're having fun, having fun, having fun. You're teaching. And then, boom! You hit them with a 1 minute fun burst. And then have some fun, have some fun, have some fun. Remember that you've taught them when they say class, they need to say yes with their hands folded. You don't want the burst to get too bursty, and the hands folded like this. That gets them back. So normal fun, fun burst, normal fun. I haven't said what the fun burst is yet. I just shown you the pattern. And it's something you can use all day long. Let's look at it. Have normal fun teaching with the class, yes, the scoreboard, mirror, teach okay, yes. And then have a brief, high-intensity fun burst of Rule 1 practice using the scoreboard and the three-peat. That's one kind of fun burst. Here we go. So you're teaching about sentences. You finish. Fun burst. Rule 1. Follow directions quickly. Not fast enough. Mighty groan. Not loud enough. Mighty groan. Stand up. Oh, very good. Mighty oh yeah. Sit down. Sit down, down, down. Boom. Burst them with a little Rule 1 practice, a little mini lesson in between the other lessons. Get them moving around. Scoreboard a couple times. Frowny a couple times. Use the three-peat. Bring them back. You see the beauty of that? Normal fun. Lots of fun. Normal fun. Here's a little dialogue for you. Let's look at the dialogue. I wrote it out for you. The teacher walks quickly to the whiteboard, marker in hand. Stand up. The students slowly stand up. Teacher says, too slow. Marks are found. Groan. A few of them groan. Teacher says, Rule 1. Getting the idea and making the gesture, follow directions quickly. Teacher says, faster. Kids say, follow directions quickly. Sit down. Students, sit down, down, down. Give them a mighty oh yeah. Now we'll go back to our math lessons. Turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor, fun bursts are fun. See what I'm saying? If you get them back with this, you can do fun bursts all day long. And if they're too slow coming out of the fun burst, it's mighty groan time. Let's look at another script for a Rule 1 fun burst. You say class, they say yes, you say too slow, you say what's Rule 1, they say follow directions quickly, you say great, papers out, they say papers out, 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 you say great, papers away, 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 you mark a smiley, they say oh yeah, super. Now let's start our writing lesson. And if they don't come back quick enough, you mark a frowny. Now also use fun bursts for review. This is huge. Review is one of the most tedious things we do in class. Give me an oh yeah. So use a fun burst just to go over stuff that you've covered. Here's a screen. So you say, well, class, they say yes. You say too slow, groan. You say, we just talked about vowels. Tell your neighbor over and over all about vowels. Teach. Okay. And they didn't teach their neighbors fast enough about vowels. And call them back and do the vowel lesson again. And call them back and do the vowel lesson again. Your kids should know that at any time during the day, they're responsible for other stuff you've taught. Here's the 3 steps. You get everyone's attention with class yes. You give directions that must be followed quickly or state a review topic. You mark the scoreboard if the students are fast or slow. That's the fun burst. After your students have learned class yes, the scoreboard, and mirror, you can fun burst them all day long. Here's your whiteboard. Fun burst the whiteboard. Question is, how do you indicate the three-peat? My friends, you've established on day one, here are our procedures. Paper out, pencil out, paper away, book out, whatever your procedures are. If you say it in a certain tone of voice and it's brief, they'll pick up that it's a three-peat. But first, you're going to practice this particular three-peat. Practice this particular three-peat. Then do a fun burst just on that three-peat. You're not going to say, assume a yoga position, and they say position, you know. No. You're just going to three-peat on stuff they know is a three-peat. Now here is a big point. I made a special screen for it. Pay attention. Very important point. Whenever you say class, students should respond yes, and becoming silent, quickly fold their hands. If you don't emphasize this, fun burst will become too bursty. You want to create a pattern of wild energy during the burst, then absolute silence when you call kids back. Done correctly, kids will love this high energy, rapid alternation between high energy and frozen self-control. The important point. Now here's the big summary. All the grades. Lots of Rule 1 practice. Learn the classroom procedures. Learn class yes, scoreboard, and mirror. Learn student names. Use the whiteboard lesson list, grade level lessons, and fun burst all day. For K1, use substitute, tell your neighbor, and just do 1 class rule a day. For 2nd and 5th, add lots of teach okay practice and throw in the 5 rules. And in secondary, you cover it all. What's the one main goal for day 1? Now here is my question to my online friends. What is the one main goal for day 1? You tell me. You know what? A lot of you are doing very good. We're all on the same page. Wow. There it is. Practice Rule 1. That's the thing for day 1. Get that Rule 1 practice in, my friends. Get them to follow directions. Fun, fun, fun. Get them to follow directions. Here's our friend, Ms. Linenthal. Ms. Linenthal, how you doing?
Gosh, day 1 sounds great, but how could I get professional development credit for this broadcast and a copy of these slides?
Ms. Linenthal, how are you?
I'm feeling a lot better, Coach. I was sick last week. My voice was all scratchy.
Well, Ms. Linenthal, I'm glad your voice isn't scratchy this week. So for professional development credit, or if you want a copy of the slides, go to PayPal. 533 is the code of this program, so you put $5.33 in. And before long, sometimes within minutes, I'll send you an email with a professional development certificate and a PDF copy of these slides. There's the certificate. There's the back of the certificate. And what would you like to do next week? Online audience, tell me, what would you like to do next week? I'm going to tell you what we're going to do next week. Here it is. Week 1 goals. Let's talk about what our goals are for week 1. And we're going to show you some new stuff again next week. We can't do day 2 because day 2 is going to look too different for K1, 2nd, 5th, and secondary. Let's go to the website. A couple of things. First of all, some people say, well, why don't you come to my backyard? Well, get an administrator to send me an email. Chris Biffle at wholebrainteaching.com. Here's a couple more things I want to show you. My friends, here I am on the website, and check it out. Right up here, we've got the PayPal thing. This is where if you want any of the things, you put in $5.33. We've had a bit of confusion. Let's look at WBT Webcast Day One. This is where you're going to post these. Check this out. Pay close attention here, my friends. There's going to be a bunch of you posting your certification essays here. Now look down here. You see right here? When a bunch of you post essays, there'll be several pages. So don't get lost. We'll respond to you, but we may be on the next page if there are a bunch of pages. Little numbers down here will page you through. One more nice point. My friends, here I am back on the website. Had a huge audience tonight, over 400 again. And here is a very valuable resource, the Facebook pages. So if I click on the grade level Facebook pages, I bring this up, and I can go to my Facebook, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, middle school, high school, and special ed. And if you're an art or other teacher, start a Facebook page and let us know. And whenever you miss anything, remember, all of our webcasts are right here, right there in the middle of that page. So if you miss one, view it at your own leisure. Well, my friends, wow. We have had amazing night tonight. Next week, let's look at our goals for week 1. After that, I think let's do some simple lesson planning. So before we go, let's first of all ask anybody out there from outside the U.S. Everybody stop. Let's just see if we've got anybody out there from outside the U.S. I know we have Penny Ross from Venezuela, Bermuda. Thank you, BDA teacher. Okinawa, Japan. All right, Okinawa. Canada. Now, let's have the role of every place we're from. Let those cities and states fly down the screen. California, Colorado, Utah, Kentucky, Maine, Toledo, Pasadena, Bakersfield, Alabama, Jefferson, Cut Off, Louisiana. Oh, that's beautiful, my friends. That's beautiful. Sugar Hill, Georgia. Love to be in Sugar Hill, Georgia. Well, you can stay online if you want. I'm going to shut down the video. I'll come back online and answer questions. But as we always say, power to the teachers. God bless us all. And my friends, just a personal note, If you could pray for my family, I deeply appreciate it. We're having some very difficult times on two sides of my family. Please send me some prayers. For my daughter Saskia and my granddaughter Aaliyah. Pour those prayers in, my friends. Thank you so, so much. Talk to you all soon. See you next week. Another incredible crowd.